a rape threat. That's just the nature of the internet. Now, these people are people who, if they were walking down the street and said this, would not receive a rape threat. What's the difference? Why is it that there are people on the internet who are happy to throw around slurs, to throw around rape threats, to throw around physical threats like, I know what your children look like? Like, why are people willing to say this on the internet when they're not willing to say it face to face?
Nobody knows who you are.
No one knows who they are. If this person, like if somebody walked up to you, never having met you, and said like, I'm going to rape you now, like that person would feel something to stop them. Or they're a sociopath. But many people who in other parts of their lives are not sociopaths would make these sorts of threats on the internet because they don't feel the shame, because nobody is judging them, because no one knows who they are. Or at least that's the way it feels. So that's another major issue with norms, is the nature of the internet is such that they're very, very hard to take hold. And this is why you see such terrible, vile things on the comments section of anything on the internet. Or why is it that like it was rare for like it was not unheard of, but it was relatively rare before the invention of the smartphone for men to show their penises to strangers. Now, it seems like any public figure you ever read about is like, yeah, I get about 5 random dick pics a day. And you're just like, really? Why do these men feel okay? Well, it's because they're behind a screen. They're not going to pull their dick out in front of somebody on the subway, except for somebody who's like got a very serious psychological disorder. And when that happens, it's like, you know, but if everyone who sent unwanted dick pics were walking around with their penis out at all times, based on how many dick pics get sent around, it sounds like half the world would be walking around with their pants down. And so this is the sort of thing that happens. Norms are powerful so long as you get people feeling shame. But people on the internet feel no shame at all. And so the second one, so laws take too long, they're slow. Norms, they're like not something which applies when people aren't feeling shame. All right, let's just finish off this last one so I can shut this computer. No, yeah, let's do this right here. If this works, then we'll just finish this one off. What's the third one of these? Anyone know?
Market pressure.
Market pressure, and we are going to use Chris Rock to explain market pressure better than I possibly can. So let's get these things queued up, and we will do this. Actually, you know what? No, we're just going to finish all 4, and then we'll take our break. So, what is market pressure? Let's just do this one. All right. As soon as these are queued up and ready to go. Well, as this comes up, we'll do number 4. What is 4?
Architecture.
Architecture. What is architecture? What do we mean to regulate by architecture? It just literally means you make something physically impossible. You put up a fence. It's the thing that it's what the Pentagon walls are. It's what the counter at the pharmacy is. It's designed to make you prevent people from doing something, not by punishing them if they do, but by making it impossible for them to do it. So what are some things that are regulated in this way? Access to certain sorts of buildings. You just cannot get there. Things that require top secret surveillance. That's another thing. You just keep people physically out of there. So, how does architecture regulation apply on the internet? Why does it work well or poorly with the internet?
It works well because sometimes there are bits of code that you can just overcome, and there are certain ways that you can interact with, say, different kind of links.
Yeah, so one thing, and as a matter of fact, the main way things on the internet get regulated are by architecture. It literally just certain things become impossible by being written into the code. So for instance, if you want to buy Microsoft's operating system, you have to follow Microsoft. You can't, like the physical thing, you cannot suddenly just make up your own operating system. If you buy something, it is built into the computer, or the processor is literally hardwired in, or the website is built by somebody else and it decides whether you have cookies or not, and there's nothing you can do about it. Companies regulate you giving them data, regulate who can access. Banks regulate how much information about you they have. So that's how architecture works with with internet regulation. What's the worry about this, though? What's the worry that this is our main way of regulating?
Well, I think the big issue is like they're still trying to distinguish if the internet as a place or a medium. So it's like if you're trying to use architecture to prevent the access, then it'll work if it was a place. If the internet's a place, then the architecture is going to work. But if the internet is what we consider a medium.
So that's absolutely one of the issues, is just that the nature of the internet is such that it's not clear how to apply the architecture. Like, there are certain ways in which what we have right now doesn't nicely regulate the internet because we don't quite know what the internet is.
Like, in other words, like if you just like literally have to like you have a Wi-Fi in your house, then like they have to limit the way you can access your Wi-Fi. Basically, is what they're saying, because the internet is such a broad place that once you get on Wi-Fi, you can have the almost entire access to the whole entire internet.
Yeah, and who's the only person who decides what you can and cannot have access to? What determines whether there's a paywall or something password protected? Who's in charge of that? The site owner themselves. So who determines whether you can get onto Netflix? Netflix does. Who determines whether you get onto some, say, conspiracy theory blog? Who determines whether anyone can access that? The conspiracy theorists who built the website. If you want to get onto a pornography website, who's in charge of determining who's allowed in and out?
The CEO of that.
Yeah, it's presumably going to be the owner of that website, plus whatever very minimal laws says click this button to prove you're 18. That's the sort of thing we have. And what's the worry about this? What are these companies trying to do? When the government passes a law which says that this shouldn't be allowed, why do they generally, what is their general motivation for it? Or what is at least part of their motivation for it? Like, when we have, like, why is it a law in the United States that you are not allowed to fire somebody exclusively because of their race? You're not allowed to go, I fire you because you are blank race. Why is that a law in this country?
Because that is considered prejudicial and harmful.
Yeah, it's harmful. It's prejudicial. We don't have, that isn't legal because we as a society have decided a country where that is allowed is a bad one and that shouldn't be allowed. What, though, is determining who should be allowed to access a website? Who is deciding it? The company. And what are they very often motivated by?
Money.
Money.
Big money.
It's a matter of money. So what we have is the current ways of regulating the internet are being done not for the betterment of society, but to increase amounts of money. So for instance, what is DRM? Digital Rights Management. Do people know what I'm talking about here? It's basically stuff written into the code of a program you buy that prevents you from like giving it to whoever you want. So you know how many of you've opened it up and then it says please enter your little code and you have to like find all the X's and Y's and 27. That's the thing which accesses the DRM. So the DRM is built into that software to prevent you from giving it to anybody else. Why is it there? Why is the DRM there? Who decided to put it there? Is the government like, this software needs to be in the hands of the consumers? No, the government doesn't give a damn. Who decided? Who put Microsoft's DRM in their software? Microsoft did. When you buy a video game and there's DRM, who put it there? The video game designer. That's exactly the thing. So we've got this thing where the main type of regulation is being done by companies whose main drive is something other than societal well-being, which is this very, very strange thing where private companies are making decisions about how your information and everything is regulated. And say what you will about the law and say what you will about the American judicial system and the American electoral system, at the very least, we have some tiny amount of say over who our elected officials are. You have no say over who the Google CEO is. You have no say over who runs Microsoft. So you've got this situation in which Google and Microsoft and the heads of those companies are the ones deciding what you should and shouldn't have access to for reasons having to do with them making money, not you being better off. So that's the last thing with architecture. All right, let's shut these lights off and we can We'll just have Chris Rock explain market pressure to us in one skit. Let's make sure the sound is up.
I wonder if he's gonna pull a Kevin Hart.
Okay. Nope, that's not the one.
You don't need no gun control. You know what you need? We need some bullet control.
Can people hear it? Or do we need the volume up a little bit?
Yeah, he kind of sounds like Kevin Hart.
I mean, Chris Rock is probably talking loud enough, but.
Yeah, let's see if I can get this volume up.
We need some bullet
This might be real loud now, so warning.
Yeah, that should be real loud.
You don't need no gun control. You know what you need? We need some bullet control. We need to control the bullets. That's right. I think all bullets should cost $5,000. $5,000 for a bullet. You know why? Because if a bullet costs $5,000, there'll be no more innocent bystanders. Yeah. Every time somebody gets shot, you be like, "Damn, he must have did something." Shit, they put $50,000 worth of bullets in his ass. If people would think before they kill somebody, if a bullet costs $5,000, man, I would blow your fucking head off if I could afford it. I'm gonna give me another job, I'm gonna start saving some money, and you a dead man. You better hope I can't get no bullets on layaway. So even if you get shot by a straight bullet, you won't have to go to no doctor to get it taken out. Whoever shot you, take their bullet back. I believe you got my property.
Alright. Based on that, what is market pressure control? What is regulation by market pressure? You did.
Okay, so market pressure is basically regulating not just like weapons and ammunitions, but also like things that are like deemed illegal, like cigarettes, e-cigarettes.
So yeah, these are all the
alcohol.
things that are market pressuredly regulated. But what does it mean to regulate? Based on what this skit is, what does it mean, Wally? Yeah, it's just a matter of you control who has access to things by making it so expensive that not everybody can access it. So in this, clearly this is a joking skit. The idea is, well, if bullets cost $5,000, nobody would be shooting each other all the time because it wouldn't be worth it, and people couldn't afford bullets. Therefore, people could keep their guns, but bullets would cost so much that no one would buy them, and gun violence would go down. What are some other cases of regulation by this? Cigarettes. How much do cigarettes cost? Like for a pack of cigarettes in this city. I don't buy cigarettes, we learned this before. Does anyone know though?
$14.
Yeah, $14. How much does it cost to make a pack of cigarettes?
Less than $2.
Yeah, less than $2. Why is it so expensive?
Taxes.
Yeah, taxes. They're taxed up the wazoo, and why are they taxed up the wazoo? Well, because the goal is to get fewer people to buy them. If you make them so expensive nobody can buy them, then people don't get access to them. That's the idea behind market pressure. That's also the idea behind tariffs. The tariffs and trade wars going on with China. Basically, all a tariff is it says, we are putting a tax on somebody else's good from elsewhere. Therefore, if you want to get it, you're going to be paying more than you would have to pay if you bought it from an American company. So, that's what market pressure is. Yudi, was that your hand or was
that was
your
my hand.
Or was it both your hands? Yudi first and Shah.
Okay, so that's how the gun control comes into play when it comes to like laws and like regulations, and also like Donald Trump and also the state of Michigan, I believe, they're starting to not only ban jewel pods but also like elevate the price because of the nicotine.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what we see in a lot of cases of substances which are
already
legal.
banned, but
Alcohol
not fully
also
banned.
has taxes on it for just this
Not fully
reason.
banned.
Shah, do you have a hand?
Yeah, I just want to add one example, like the toll prices for the cars in the New York and the congestion price,
Yeah.
which was they are willing to pass, like if travel from Midtown to downtown, you have to pay.
Yeah, that's another really good one. Is instead of trying to regulate cars Like, instead of saying, like, you aren't allowed to drive this many times in a week, or we need to keep down congestion by saying, you are not allowed to drive unless you're a taxi, they're just saying, you're welcome to drive, but you're gonna have to pay $10 every time you cross 30